the void breathed like a living thing. It whispered through the cracks of reality, where stars bled and time convulsed. From that darkness, something ancient stirred, not born of the warp, but dragged into it by fate itself. He remembered nothing at first. Just the echo of chains. The heat of battle. The screams of gods long dead. Then, silence. When Kratos opened his eyes, he was lying amidst ash and ruin. The sky was a feverish storm of blood-red clouds, and beneath him, the ground pulsed faintly, alive with whispers. His hands still gripped the blades of chaos, their edges flickering with dying embers. He rose slowly, body aching from the crossing. The taste of iron lingered in his mouth. He had seen strange realms before, Olympus in its fall, Midgard shrouded in mist, Helheim's frozen void, but this world reeked of despair unlike any he had known. There were no gods here, only the stench of endless war. A sound drifted from beyond the ridge, a metallic hymn, sung by voices mechanical and broken. Kratos climbed toward it, boots crunching bone and gravel. Overhead, something screamed through the clouds, a ship the size of a mountain, etched with the sigil of a skull wreathed in flame. Its engines burned like a dying sun. He watched in silence as it vanished into the horizon. Around him, the wind howled, carrying with it a strange name whispered again and again. The Emperor. Kratos frowned. Another god. His voice rasped like rust scraping steel. The whispers deepened, the warp twisting around his thoughts. He saw flashes, cathedrals of iron, warriors in armor the color of ash, banners soaked in blood, and a throne of gold upon which sat a corpse god whose eyes glowed like dying stars. A galaxy enslaved to devotion. A million worlds burning in his name. And beneath it all, laughter. Cold, infinite laughter that seeped into his bones. He knew that sound. It was the laughter of gods. The ground trembled. Shapes emerged from the dust, towering figures clad in twisted power armor, their faces hidden behind horned helms. Their eyes glowed with warp fire, and their weapons hummed with demonic hunger. They spoke in a tongue older than men. Another soul thrown into the madness of the great game, one hissed. He reeks not of the warp, nor the machine, what is he? Kratos's grip tightened on his blades. I am no soul, he growled. I am wrath. The first of them charged, hammer crashing down like a thunderclap. Kratos moved, a blur of red and smoke. The blades of chaos screamed as they tore through corrupted steel and flesh. One by one, the Chaos Marines fell, their ichor burning the earth. But for each that died, more emerged, their laughter rising like a storm. He fought until his arms burned, until the world itself seemed to bleed around him. And then, silence again. Only corpses and smoke remained. Kratos knelt, panting, his chains coiled like serpents around his arms. The air shimmered, and from the haze stepped a figure draped in robes of gray and gold, face half covered by a mechanical mask. A priest of metal and bone. In the Emperor's name, the men whispered, awestruck. You have slain the corrupted. Kratos rose slowly, his gaze hard. Your Emperor, he said, voice low and cold, does he rule this world? The priest nodded. He rules all worlds. His light guides mankind. Kratos stared at the blood-soaked horizon. Then he is like the others, he said quietly. A god who demands obedience. The priest's eyes widened, fear flickering through the mechanical lens. Blasphemy, he gasped. You will burn for such. Kratos moved faster than breath. His hand seized the man's throat. "I have burned gods before," he whispered, eyes glowing like embers. "Tell your emperor. I am coming." He released the priest, who collapsed, choking. The wind carried the smell of ozone and blood. Above, the sky split open, and from it spilled an ocean of light and shadow, the warp bleeding into the world. Kratos looked up, expression unreadable. For a heartbeat, he saw faces within the light, 4 vast shapes watching him, their eyes infinite, their laughter echoing across eternity. Khorne, the blood god, smiled with sharpened teeth. Nurgle's rot dripped like black rain. Slaanesh coiled in ecstasy. And Tsench whispered a promise. They had felt his arrival. They hungered for him. Kratos sheathed his blades. The wind howled like an ancient prophecy, and in its cry was the sound of war unending. He walked toward the horizon, where lightning bled from the heavens and the mountains burned. Each step left a mark of flame. Somewhere beyond, the Imperium of men stirred. Servitors screamed in data tongues. Astropaths bled from their eyes. A new presence had entered the Great War, something not of this universe, yet born to destroy gods. In the archives of Mars, a Mechanicus scribe would later describe the event as the arrival of the ghost. But for now, only the warp knew his name. And it whispered it across 1,000,000 stars. Kratos. A legend reborn. A god among the damned. The Ghost of Sparta, stepping into the 41st millennium, where even gods bleed before the emperor. The world he walked upon was called Desmara 9, though few now remembered its name. It was a dying planet, its cities choked by smoke, its skies burning with the exhaust of orbiting warships. The Imperium called it a shrine world once. Now, it was little more than a graveyard wrapped in prayer. Kratos crossed its wastelands for 3 days without sleep. His wounds sealed in moments, his body healing faster than he could feel pain. Yet each night, the wind whispered strange hymns, voices not of mortals, but of something older. He ignored them at first, but by the 3rd night, he began to dream. In those dreams, he saw the throne of gold, and upon it sat the emperor, a corpse bound by wires and light. Countless souls chanted his name in agony. Kratos felt their devotion like chains around his own heart, suffocating and endless. And in the emperor's eyes, he saw something familiar. Not compassion. Not divinity. Only war. He woke with his blades already drawn. The dawn came blood-red. In the distance, across a plain littered with rusted relics of forgotten wars, a convoy approached, armored transports bearing the seal of the Aquila. The machines roared, kicking up clouds of ash. Kratos stood unmoving as they surrounded him. From the lead vehicle stepped a man in heavy black armor trimmed in gold. His face was a lattice of scars, his gaze sharp as glass. In one hand, he carried a power sword, its edge shimmering with blue light. "Inquisitor Vale," the man said, bowing his head slightly. "By authority of the Holy Ordos, I demand to know your allegiance, stranger." Kratos said nothing. The wind carried his silence like a blade. Vale frowned. "You wear no sigil. No mark of allegiance to the Emperor. Yet you stride this sacred soil as though you own it." He took a step forward. "Speak, before I have you burned." Kratos's eyes glowed faintly red. "I serve no master," he said. The soldiers tensed. Weapons rose. The sound of lasguns charging filled the air. Vale studied him, intrigued. "Defiance," he mused. "Bravery, or blasphemy?" Do you even know where you stand, stranger? You are on Imperial ground. The Emperor's light governs all. The light you speak of, Kratos replied, voice like rolling thunder, smells of blood. The Inquisitor smiled faintly. All things worth believing in do. He gestured, and his men surrounded Kratos in a tightening circle. You will come with us. There are those who will want to examine you. Your strength, your nature, it reeks of something not human. Perhaps a demon, perhaps worse. Kratos's hands coiled around his chains. I am neither demon nor man, he said softly. But if you wish to see what I am, you will. The chains blazed. Fire erupted. The air cracked like a furnace opening. When the soldiers fired, their beams vanished in the heat shimmer that surrounded him. Kratos leapt, like a storm unbound. His blade sliced through armor and flesh alike. Flames consumed men faster than they could scream. Vale raised his sword, meeting Kratos's strike with inhuman reflexes. The power field shrieked as it met the blades of chaos. Sparks and fire roared between them. You fight like one touched by the warp, Vale hissed. I fight, Kratos growled, pressing forward, like one who killed gods. With a final surge, he sent the Inquisitor crashing into the dirt. The man's armor split. Blood ran from his mouth. Yet he smiled through it. You are doomed here, creature, Vale spat. The galaxy will devour you. Even gods die before the Emperor's will. Kratos turned away, his voice cold. Then let him come. He vanished into the storm before the reinforcements arrived. When the dust settled, Vale lay broken but alive. His men were ash. And yet, in his last breath before the Medici arrived, the Inquisitor whispered a single command into his vox bead. Mark him. The ghost. Find him. By the time the sun set, Kratos had reached the ruins of what once was a cathedral. Statues of saints lay shattered, their marble faces melted by plasma fire. Inside, he found silence, a kind of silence only war could leave behind. But beneath that silence, a pulse. He descended into the catacombs, following the sound. There, chained to a pillar of iron, was a machine priest, the same one he had spared days ago. His augmetics were torn open, his flesh half-burned. They called you a demon, the priest rasped, seeing Kratos emerge from the shadows. The Inquisition hunts you now. I have been hunted before, Kratos said. The priest wheezed. They will call you heretic, blasphemer, monster. Kratos's expression did not change. They can call me what they wish. He turned to leave, but the priest called out one last time. You will not survive here without faith. The Emperor's realm devours those who walk alone. Kratos paused at the threshold. The light of the burning sky poured down through the cracks above, casting his face in scarlet. I have no faith, he said. Only vengeance. And then he was gone. The priest died smiling. Not from joy, but from prophecy, for in his dying vision, he saw a throne of fire, and upon it sat not the Emperor, but Kratos, draped in the bones of gods and men. Far above Desmara 9, aboard a battle cruiser of the Inquisition, a figure cloaked in darkness listened to the reports. The data scroll flickered, repeating the same name over and over. Unidentified entity. Non-imperial. Hostile. Designation, the ghost. The figure turned toward the void, where the stars burned like open wounds. Send word to the Grey Knights, she said. Tell them, a god walks among us." The servitors bowed. The lights dimmed. Somewhere beyond the veil of stars, the warp trembled, aware, amused, and hungry. And deep within it, Khorne laughed once more. For blood had come to his playground. The night burned like an open wound. On Desmara 9, the wind carried the taste of metal and death, and lightning ripped through the red clouds as if the heavens themselves were tearing apart. Kratos stood on the edge of a jagged ridge overlooking what was once a manufactorum, a sprawling industrial labyrinth, now nothing but molten ruins and twitching machine carcasses. The world was dying, and something beneath its crust had begun to wake. He felt it before he saw it, a heartbeat in the earth, deep and rhythmic, pulsing through the bones of the planet. It was not natural. It was hunger given form. The air shimmered with heat and distortion, and the horizon twisted into a whirl of red light. The warp was bleeding through. Kratos gripped his chains tighter. The blades of chaos flared to life, the metal moaning like tortured spirits. He could feel the warp tugging at him, whispering his name, calling him closer. For the first time since his arrival, he felt something like recognition, a power that reminded him of home, of Olympus, of wrath. He descended into the ruins. The manufactorums remained stretched deep into the earth, a labyrinth of broken pipes and half-collapsed tunnels. Faded imperial banners still hung from the walls, their cloth soaked in centuries of soot. Somewhere below, the heartbeat grew louder, and a voice began to rise beneath it. "Ghost of Sparta," it hissed, soft and slithering. "You do not belong here, and yet, the blood in you sings with our song." Kratos did not answer. The voice seemed to come from everywhere, the metal walls, the air, his own mind. "Do you not remember?" it continued. "You were forged in rage, tempered in tragedy. You slew your gods and burned your world. You are kin to us." The tunnels trembled. A crimson glow filled the chamber ahead. Kratos stepped forward, his shadow long and monstrous. At the center of the chamber lay a tear in the fabric of reality, a gaping wound that pulsed like a living thing. From within it, tendrils of red smoke slithered out, and with them came a smell of rust, ash, and something older than time. Then the thing emerged. A creature of flesh and brass, towering over Kratos, its limbs forged from the armor of fallen warriors, its head crowned with horns like broken swords. Its chest was split open, revealing a molten heart that beat to the rhythm of war drums. "I am Kratos, Prince of the Blood God," it thundered. "And you, mortal god, have trespassed into his domain." Kratos stared up at it, unflinching. "Then I will leave it in ruin." The demon's laughter shook the chamber. "You think yourself divine. Here, there are no gods. Only hunger and blood." It lunged, and the world exploded. The demon's claw came down like a falling star. Kratos met it head-on, blades blazing, chains wrapping around its arm. The impact shattered the floor, sending debris into the air like meteors. Kratos was flung backward but rolled to his feet in a fluid motion, his body already moving before the thought formed. He charged. The blades of chaos sang through the air, slashing through flesh and flame. Each strike left burning trails across the demon's body, yet still it laughed. "Good." Kratos roared. "Let it flow. The rage that births you, the fire that sustains you, give it to me." Kratos snarled, pulling the demon forward with a whip of his chains. "You want rage," he growled. "Then drown in it." He unleashed it all, the fury of Olympus, the grief of his past, the wrath of 1,000 battles. The very air burned around him. He leapt, twisting through the smoke, blades spinning in arcs of fire. The demon's roar became a shriek. Kratos swung its axe, cleaving a crater into the ground. Kratos dodged, his blades carving through the creature's leg. Black blood hissed as it hit the stone. But the demon only grinned, even as it bled. "You are a weapon, Ghost," it said, its voice now deep and echoing through his mind. "A tool of chaos, whether you admit it or not. You think you fight against the gods, but you are one of us. Rage. Death. Destruction. You are the embodiment of the warp itself." Kratos drove his blades into its chest, twisting until the molten heart ruptured. "I am no one's embodiment," he spat. "I am their end." The demon screamed. The warp wound around it, trying to pull it back into the rift. Kratos ripped his chains free and stepped back as the creature was dragged into the bleeding tear, its roar fading into the void. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the rift pulsed once more, before collapsing in on itself with a deafening implosion. Kratos fell to one knee, breathing heavily. The ground beneath him cooled, turning to cracked stone. The heat faded, and the air grew still. He stared at the spot where the demon had vanished, the smell of blood still thick in the air. He could feel the warp watching him. It wasn't done. He rose, dragging his chains behind him. "If this galaxy is ruled by gods," he muttered, "then let them fear what walks among them." Above, in orbit, the Inquisition's battle cruiser recorded a psychic surge unlike anything seen in centuries. Astropaths went blind. Tech priests screamed as their augmetics sparked and burned. Inquisitor Vale, his body wrapped in bandages and pain, listened to the reports from his medical chamber. His jaw clenched as he heard the words. "Confirmed manifestation, Lord Inquisitor. Estimated warp displacement equivalent to a demon prince's death. But there's no trace of the entity afterward." Vale's voice was a whisper of iron. "He's not demon," he said. "He's something worse." He turned to the window, watching Desmara 9 burn below. "Send for the Grey Knights," he said. "Tell them the Ghost of Sparta walks the stars." And somewhere far beyond the reach of mortal senses, in the depths of the Imperium, the laughter of the blood god rolled across eternity. Khorne had found a new favorite toy. The corpse world of Desmara 9 burned in silence. Its manufactorums lay in twisted heaps, and the skies, once black, were now the color of boiling blood. Kratos walked through it like a phantom. The firelight painted his scars gold and red, his every breath a storm of smoke. He had seen the fall of gods before. Yet never had he felt a world so empty, so devoted to death. Here, men built their heavens from ash and prayed to a god who could not answer. He could feel that god now. Not as a presence, but as an absence so vast, it devoured everything around it. The Emperor. A name whispered like a spell, binding billions in obedience. In the ruins of a broken cathedral, Kratos found their devotion carved into stone. Statues of saints reached upward in eternal agony, their faces melted by fire. Around them, the faithful had died kneeling. Their lips were still moving. Whispers slithered between the pews, carried on the dying wind. Words not of the living. He watches. He judges. He devours. Kratos turned slowly. Shadows moved among the corpses. Not demons, men. Armored giants in silver plate, bearing blades etched with holy scripture. Grey Knights. Their leader stepped forward, his armor gleaming faintly in the firelight. His face was hidden behind a helm sculpted with angelic fury. "Kratos of Sparta," he said, his voice like iron scraping stone. "By order of the Emperor, you are to be judged." Kratos's eyes narrowed. "Your Emperor judges from a throne of bones," he said. "Let him come himself." The knight raised his sword. "He does not come. He sends us." In an instant, the air cracked open. Bolters thundered. Psychic energy flooded the cathedral like a tidal wave. Kratos was thrown back against the altar, marble shattering beneath his weight. The Grey Knights advanced in silence, chanting words of sanctity that burned through the warp like cleansing fire. But the Ghost of Sparta did not bow. The blades of chaos erupted with light, the chains lashing outward in arcs of molten fury. He moved faster than their eyes could track, striking, dodging, tearing through stone and flesh alike. The sanctified rounds tore through the air, some finding his skin, others ricocheting off the burning aura that surrounded him. One knight lunged, blade first. Kratos caught the strike midair, twisting the sword from his grip, and drove a chain through his chest. The armor screamed as the soul inside was consumed by fire. Another came behind him, chanting an exorcism, blade glowing with psychic flame. Kratos turned, caught the blade in his palm, and crushed it. The psychic backlash rippled through the cathedral, toppling statues and ripping banners from the walls. "You fight for a corpse," Kratos roared, "while your gods mock you from their graves." The leader stepped forward again. His voice cut through the smoke. "You do not understand faith, creature. You do not understand sacrifice." Kratos's eyes burned. "I understand both. I have killed for them." He charged. Their blades met with the sound of thunder. Sparks and fire filled the air as the two clashed, one forged in divinity, the other in damnation. Kratos struck again and again, his fury endless. The knight countered each blow with precision, every strike a prayer, every parry a sermon. And then, for a moment, Kratos faltered. The knight's sword plunged into his side, searing through flesh. Kratos fell to one knee. The heat from the blade sizzled through his skin, and his blood hit the floor like drops of molten iron. The Grey Knight raised his weapon for the killing strike. In the Emperor's light, he intoned, "You are undone." Kratos looked up, blood dripping from his lips. "I have been undone before," he said. The floor cracked beneath them. A pulse rippled through the ground, deep and violent. The warp bled through once more, bursting upward in a storm of red and black energy. The Grey Knight stumbled as the psychic backlash engulfed them. Kratos stood, fire erupting from his wounds. The blades of chaos flared brighter than ever before. He roared, not in rage, but in defiance of the gods themselves. Chains whipped through the storm. The cathedral walls disintegrated. When the fury faded, only silence remained. Kratos stood alone amid a field of ash. The Grey Knights were gone, some consumed by the warp, others lying still in the dust, their armor cracked like old tombs. Above him, lightning split the sky, forming for a heartbeat the shape of a golden throne. Kratos stared at it. His hand clenched unconsciously around the chain handles. "Is this your judgment?" he muttered. "Sending pawns to die for you?" The sky gave no answer, only thunder, distant and cold. Kratos turned his back to it. The chains at his wrists smoldered faintly as he began to walk once more. Somewhere deep within the warp, Khorne watched in silence. His laughter was gone. What replaced it was curiosity, a rare thing for a god of slaughter. The Ghost of Sparta had survived the touch of the Emperor's shadow. The great game had a new player. Under the dying suns of Desmara 9, the hunt finally ended. Kratos did not fall by blade or faith, but by strategy. The Adeptus Mechanicus had watched him longer than the Inquisition knew, tracking his every surge of energy, his every defiance of physics. They called him a living weapon. The Omnissiah's gift. Or perhaps, a blasphemy worth dissecting. When Kratos awoke, he was bound by cables and steel, suspended in a crimson chamber that pulsed like a beating heart. His wrists were chained to adamantium clamps, his blades of chaos hung far above him, displayed like relics in a cathedral of machines. The air reeked of oil and incense. Dozens of tech priests chanted binary hymns, their voices merging with the clicks of servo skulls circling overhead. At the center stood Magos Rekton, 74, a being more machine than flesh. His face was hidden behind a brass mask shaped like a screaming skull, and his many arms carried tools that hummed with mechanical hunger. Subject Kratos, he intoned in static bursts. Origin unknown. Biostructure violates all genomic records. Energy readings exceed acceptable parameters. Hypothesis, proto-warp entity. Kratos tested the chains. They held. He said nothing. Rekton approached, lenses clicking as they focused on Kratos' eyes. "You are remarkable," he whispered. "Not demon, not machine, yet you warp both with your presence. Even the new sphere trembles at your name. You will reveal your nature to me." "I owe you nothing," Kratos growled. The Magos smiled, or rather, the servos beneath his mask twisted into the shape of one. "You owe knowledge to the Omnissiah. All things mechanical, all things divine. Even flesh may be decoded." He gestured. An arc light flared. Pain seared through Kratos' nerves as cables plunged into his back, siphoning something deeper than blood, something radiant, ancient. The machines began to tremble. Data streams overloaded, monitors flickered with static symbols, Spartan runes no human tongue had spoken in millennia. "What is this?" Rekton muttered, adjusting his mechadendrites. "Uncatalogued language detected. Energy source escalating. No, not energy, will." Kratos' eyes opened fully now, burning with red fire. "You would dissect what you cannot command," he said, voice low and thunderous. "You believe your machine god grants you power. I have killed gods, Magos. I will kill yours too." The chamber shook. The blades of chaos blazed in their restraints, responding to his fury. Flames spread across the steel, melting conduits and shattering the clamps. Rekton's mechanical limbs writhed. "Contain him," he shrieked. "Initiate sanctum lockdown." Servitors lunged forward, armed with plasma cutters and chain swords. Kratos tore free of his bonds, the metal screaming as it split. His chains erupted from his arms, slicing through steel and flesh alike. Sparks filled the air like fireflies. He moved with purpose, not wild, but precise, like a god reclaiming his domain. Each strike was a hymn of destruction. Each roar, a prayer to no one. Rekton tried to flee through a data port, his consciousness splitting into machine code to escape through the network. Kratos seized him mid-transition, slamming him into the ground. The Magos' body convulsed as Kratos' hand closed around his chest. "You sought to understand power," Kratos said. "Now feel it." He crushed the Magos' core. The light inside it went dark. The explosion tore through the facility. Alarms screamed. Red lights flickered, revealing the true size of the complex, a massive forge buried beneath the planet's surface. Yet as fire spread through its veins, something else began to stir. A rumble. A deep metallic groan that came not from the structure, but from beneath it. From the molten depths, a voice spoke, not with sound, but with memory. You bear the mark of the old wars, the scent of divine blood. Kratos froze. The very floor glowed with sigils older than mankind, carved into the bedrock by forgotten hands. Who speaks? He demanded. I am the machine that remembers, the voice said. Before the Emperor, before Mars, I was worshipped in silence. They buried me here to power their forges, but I dream still. Kratos' eyes narrowed. You are no god. You are another slave. Perhaps, it replied. But you and I are kin. We were made for war. We were abandoned by those who claimed creation. The ground split open. Beneath the forge lay a massive, half-buried machine, a humanoid form larger than any titan, carved from obsidian metal and burning from within. Take my power, Ghost of Sparta. Free me, and I will give you a weapon that even the stars will fear. Kratos stared down at the molten pit. His reflection shimmered in the machine's core, red and alive. I have no need for your power, he said, turning away. I am power. The ancient voice laughed softly, a sound like collapsing steel. Then let us see whose wrath the galaxy remembers longer. As Kratos walked from the burning forge, the great machine stirred. Its heart reignited after millennia of silence. Far above, orbiting ships detected a surge from Desmara 9 strong enough to disrupt warp travel. The Mechanicus screamed in horror, the Inquisition in awe. Inquisitor Vale watched the readings from his command deck. The forge has awakened, he murmured. And the ghost still lives. He turned to his adjutant. Prepare my ship. We go to Mars. The Emperor must be told. Below, Kratos vanished into the flames, his silhouette framed against the collapsing sky. The forge burned for 7 days and 7 nights, and when it finally died, it left behind a new name carved into the planet's crust. A warning written in fire. Godkiller. Mars burned like a dying heart. Its red deserts shimmered beneath a storm of fire and static as Kratos descended through its poisoned skies. The wreckage of the Mechanicus fleet lay scattered above the planet, blackened hulls, still burning in orbit. His arrival had not gone unnoticed. The air of Mars tasted of rust and worship. Choirs of servitors chanted to the Omnissiah through vox hymns, their voices twisted by machine distortion. The forges below screamed like living things, coughing fire into the endless dusk. Kratos landed amid the wreckage of a drop pod, its shell glowing red from entry. His feet sank into iron dust. Towers of steel rose before him, each carved with circuitry and prayer. He walked. And everywhere he went, the Mechanicus watched. Rekton's death had reached the Martian priesthood long before Kratos did. To them, he was no longer an anomaly, he was a heresy made flesh. The data streams called him the Godkiller. To capture him would mean glory. To destroy him would mean absolution. The first to confront him were Skitarii, half-men of wire and metal. Their eyes glowed red behind featureless masks, rifles humming with plasma charge. Entity, one droned, you stand upon sacred ground. Surrender for sanctification. Kratos answered only with motion. His chains ignited, sweeping wide. The air split into arcs of molten light. The Skitarii vanished in an instant, bodies reduced to shadows burned into the walls. Above, warning klaxons screamed across the forge cities. The Omnissiah's chosen unleashed their armies. Titans stirred in their vaults. Massive silhouettes walked through the smoke, each step shaking the crust of the planet. But something else stirred deeper, something the Adeptus Mechanicus had forgotten. Kratos felt it before the machines did. A pulse, faint and old, echoing beneath Mars's core. It felt like breath, like something slumbering below the iron. He followed it through the ruins, past rivers of molten ore and labyrinths of gears. The deeper he went, the louder it grew, until at last, he entered a chamber larger than a mountain. At its center stood a monolith, black stone wrapped in runes, humming with golden light. Around it, thousands of mechanical arms reached out, endlessly repairing it, endlessly worshipping it. And on its surface, an image. A man seated upon a throne of light. The Emperor. Kratos stared at it, unblinking. From the shadows stepped an ancient figure in tattered robes of gold. His face was hidden behind a mask of glass. Wires ran from his spine into the walls. "You stand before the echo of divinity," he rasped. "A psychic fragment of the master of mankind. Speak, intruder. Why do you profane his forge?" Kratos's voice was low, calm. "I seek no god. Only truth." The old priest tilted his head. "Then you have come to the wrong world. Here, truth is manufactured. Faith is the only material that does not rust." He raised his staff, and the monolith blazed. The air around Kratos warped, and before him appeared a vision, an illusion of the Emperor himself. A vast figure of light and shadow, its eyes burning like suns. "You walk in defiance of my design," the apparition said. "You bring chaos with every step." Kratos stared into those endless eyes. "I have walked through chaos all my life. I do not bend to thrones." The light brightened, the ground trembling. "You are a weapon without purpose." "I was a weapon," Kratos said. "Now I choose who bleeds." The vision's tone darkened. "Then you will be unmade." The monolith exploded. Waves of psychic fire tore through the chamber. Kratos braced himself, his blades flaring against the storm. The heat melted stone, bent metal, shattered glass. The priest was consumed instantly, his prayers ending mid-chant. Kratos pushed forward, cutting through the storm until he reached the heart of the light. With a roar, he plunged both blades into it. The psychic energy collapsed inward, sucking everything into a point of silence. When the light died, only Kratos remained. The monolith was gone. The chamber burned with quiet fire. He stood there, staring at the ruin, his reflection flickering in the molten floor. "No gods," he whispered. "Only lies." But far above, across the psychic veil, something heard him. The Emperor's mind, vast, eternal, shifted slightly on his throne. For the first time in 10,000 years, he dreamed. And in that dream, he saw a man walking through his realm of faith and fire. A man with burning chains. The Emperor's eyes opened on Terra. The Ghost of Sparta had reached his shadow. The dreams of the Emperor were not dreams as mortals knew them. They were storms of golden fire, oceans of thought stretching beyond reality, filled with the whispers of 10,000 souls bound to his will. Yet tonight, if night could exist in such a realm, the dream trembled. Something foreign had entered. Something alive. Kratos. He stood upon a bridge of light that had no end, surrounded by fragments of memory, worlds burning, armies marching, saints screaming. Each vision flickered like a candle in a void of gold. His boots struck against the light, sending ripples through eternity itself. "Where am I?" he growled. The answer came not as sound, but as a thought that filled every space in his mind. "You walk in the dream of the Emperor. You walk in the heart of humanity." Kratos turned slowly. Behind him stood a figure wrapped in radiant armor, its surface carved with holy sigils. Its face was hidden by light, yet its presence carried the weight of suns. "You are far from your world, warrior," said the voice. "This realm is not for your kind." "I was pulled here," Kratos said, his tone low, measured. "By force, not choice. Your world bleeds. Your people worship chains. And you," he stepped closer, fire glowing in his eyes, "you rule through ghosts." The light pulsed, almost like laughter. "I rule because humanity cannot survive without order. Without me, there is only chaos." "Then you are no different from the gods I've killed." The Emperor's form wavered, growing taller, brighter. "You speak of gods as though they are beneath you." "They were," Kratos said simply. "And they fell screaming." The dream rippled violently. Golden fire twisted into crimson. The bridge beneath Kratos's feet cracked. The Emperor's image fractured into shards of energy, each piece showing another war, another martyr, another lie built in the name of the Imperium. "Your defiance echoes in the warp," said the Emperor's voice, now scattered. "You awaken the gaze of beings that should never stir." Kratos raised his chains, feeling the heat of the psychic storm around him. "Let them look. Let them come." And they did. From the edges of the golden sea, darkness bled inward. 1,000 eyes opened within it. Faces formed from shadow and blood, laughing in unison. Voices whispered through Kratos's mind, oily and endless. "Slayer of Olympus, come to us. You understand rage. You understand pain. We could make you eternal." Kratos clenched his fists. "I have known eternity. It is a curse." The chaos voices twisted in amusement. "Then perhaps you seek purpose. The Emperor fears you. The galaxy rejects you. But we can give you war without end." Kratos's fire flared, pushing the shadows back for a moment. "I do not fight for you. I fight because I must." Then, suddenly, silence. The dream snapped. The Emperor's face returned, distant but sharp, his eyes like dying stars. "You will bring ruin to both God and man," he said. "You cannot remain." Kratos's vision blurred. The golden realm folded inward, collapsing into a spiral of fire and light. He fell, through dreams, through time, through screams. When he struck the ground again, it was not Mars beneath him. It was Terra, the throne world, where the sky itself bled gold and ash. The air buzzed with the hymns of billions. The imperial palace loomed like a continent of iron and prayer before him. Kratos rose slowly, his blades still burning. The people of the Imperium knelt as he passed, mistaking his arrival for a miracle. Above them, unseen, the chaos gods laughed. And in the depths of the warp, their eyes turned toward Terra. For the Ghost of Sparta had entered the heart of mankind's last empire. The sky above Terra split open. It began as a whisper, a low hum that trembled through the golden towers of the imperial palace. Then, the hum became thunder. Bolts of crimson lightning carved across the heavens, shattering clouds of holy incense and smoke. The warp had breached reality itself. And standing beneath it all, Kratos watched the end of order unfold. The ground trembled beneath the march of the custodes, the Emperor's golden guardians. Their armor gleamed like molten suns, faces hidden behind visors etched with ancient oaths. They advanced with mechanical precision, each one a living relic of perfection. At their head strode Tribune Orlion, his voice like the crack of thunder. "Creature from another age," he declared, raising a halberd of burning plasma, "you trespass upon the throne world. Kneel before the light of the Master, or be extinguished in it." Kratos's eyes were cold. "I have knelt before no one and lived." The custodes charged. The first met his chains head-on, the blades of chaos screaming as they cleaved through gold and fire. The impact sent shock waves rippling through the marble. Statues of saints shattered. Blood misted in the light. Kratos fought like the storms of old Olympus. He moved through the golden warriors as if dancing through flame, every strike a hymn of fury. Yet for every custodian he felled, two more took their place. Then the air itself screamed. The warp tier widened, spilling horror into the mortal plane. Chaos Space Marines, their armor slick with filth and corruption, crashed through reality like burning meteors. The sigils of Khorne glowed upon their flesh. From their mouths poured laughter, metallic, furious, endless. The battle turned from sacred to hellish. Custodes and Chaos Marines clashed in a storm of flame and ichor, the air thick with the stench of ozone and death. The sky itself boiled. Kratos stood at the center of it all, drenched in the blood of both gods and men. His chains were alive, serpents of fire twisting through armor and bone. He felt no allegiance, only the rhythm of war. "Do you see?" a voice whispered through the chaos. It was everywhere and nowhere, deep as thunder and cold as the void. "This is the truth of your kind, Ghost of Sparta. You kill for meaning, but meaning is the lie that keeps you chained." Kratos's jaw tightened. "Show yourself." From the rift stepped a being vast and terrible, a shadow wearing the suggestion of a man. Horns like burning towers rose from its skull, and rivers of blood flowed from its eyes. It was Khorne, the blood god, the embodiment of all rage. "Your fury sings to me," the god growled. "You are mine by nature, mortal. I have feasted on your kind since before this galaxy bled. But you," it leaned closer, voice breaking mountains, "you could be more." Kratos raised his blades, fire reflected in his eyes. "I was a slave to war once. Never again." Khorne laughed, the sound like collapsing worlds. Then died defying it. The god's hand struck the ground, sending a tidal wave of blood and skulls toward Kratos. He met it head-on, cutting through the storm as though slicing through memory. Every blow echoed with the ghosts of Olympus, with every god he'd slain. Around him, custodes and chaos warriors fell alike, their bodies lost in the torrent. Only Kratos stood against the tide, a mortal flame defying eternity. And then, silence. The warp closed. The storm faded. The battlefield lay buried under layers of ash and ruin. Khorne's laughter echoed once, then vanished. Kratos knelt amid the corpses, his body trembling, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He had fought gods before, but never one that reflected his own soul so perfectly. Above him, the Emperor's voice resonated across the broken sky. "You cannot kill war, Kratos. You are war." Kratos looked up, blood and fire streaking his face. Then let war end with me. As the sun broke through the ash, Terra burned. The throne itself began to tremble. The final reckoning had begun. The wind howled through the shattered halls of the imperial palace. Ash fell like gray snow, coating statues of saints and angels now headless, their wings broken. The earth trembled under the weight of dying engines. The once holy spires of Terra leaned in ruin. Kratos walked through the wreckage, each step echoing like a drumbeat of doom. His armor was scorched, his skin torn, his chains dim from exhaustion. Yet his eyes burned, red, steady, alive. Ahead of him, past the corridors of broken marble and forgotten prayers, stood the golden throne. It loomed vast as a mountain, built of gold, bones, and circuitry, a monument that throbbed with ancient light. The emperor sat upon it, a corpse wrapped in radiance, sustained by endless sacrifice. Tubes and cables slithered from his form like roots, feeding upon the souls of 10,000 psychers. The air reeked of sanctity and decay. Kratos paused at the base of the dais. His voice broke the silence, low and grave. "So this is your godhood." The emperor's eyes opened, two suns dimmed by eternity. His voice was soft, almost weary. "You stand where none but death has dared. Why come here, warrior?" Kratos's hands tightened around his blades. "To see what you are. To see if power ever learns." The emperor studied him in silence. "You have slaughtered my servants, defiled my realm. Yet I feel no hatred for you. Only recognition. You carry the same burden I once bore." Kratos's gaze hardened. "Do not compare us." "Why not?" The emperor's tone deepened, filled with echoes of 1,000 voices. "You killed gods to save your world. I became one to save mine. We are both the consequence of necessity." The blades of chaos flared, their chains glowing. "You built an empire of worship. I destroyed one. That is our difference." A faint smile touched the emperor's lips, more a shadow than expression. "You think freedom lies in destruction. Every throne you burn, another rises from its ashes. You cannot kill belief. Then belief deserves to die." For a moment, silence again, heavy and absolute. Then the throne roared. Power erupted from its core, shaking the chamber. Psychic fire swept outward, and the emperor rose, radiant, terrible, alive for the first time in 10,000 years. "Then prove it, Ghost of Sparta." Kratos leapt. His chains blazed as he struck, meeting divine energy with pure fury. The clash shattered the air itself. Gold melted, stone wept blood. The emperor's spear of light met Kratos's twin blades in bursts of brilliance. Every blow was history rewritten. Every strike, a hymn to rebellion. Kratos roared and pressed forward, each movement tearing new scars across the throne. The emperor countered, his power vast, but his flesh failing, each pulse of light eating at his own body. "You cannot win," the emperor thundered. "I am humanity's last hope." Kratos's reply came like the growl of a storm. "Hope built on chains is not hope, it's fear." He broke through the emperor's guard, his blades plunging into divine light. The explosion hurled them both apart. When the radiance cleared, the emperor slumped upon his throne once more, his glow fading. The machinery groaned, dying. Kratos lay upon the ground, smoke curling from his armor, breathing hard. The emperor's voice came faintly now, fading like embers. "If I fall, mankind will fall with me." Kratos rose slowly, his silhouette framed by fire. Then let mankind learn to stand. He turned, walking into the burning light of dawn as the golden throne cracked behind him. The Emperor's last words followed him through the smoke, soft, almost human. Perhaps this is freedom. The light went out. Terra fell silent. Kratos disappeared into the rising ash, a lone figure walking through the death of empires. Behind him, the age of gods, old and new, finally ended. But in the distant warp, chaos laughed once more. War was eternal. And somewhere in the darkness, the Ghost of Sparta smiled. The galaxy held its breath. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Astronomicon, the golden light that guided humanity through the warp, went dark. Fleets drifted lost among the stars. Worlds once bound by faith fell into silence. The Imperium trembled. Yet amid the terror and confusion, a strange calm began to spread. The priests no longer heard the voice of their god. The screaming prayers that once filled the void had gone quiet. And in that silence, humanity felt something it had forgotten: choice. They whispered that the Emperor had not died, but had ascended beyond faith. That his final act was not of defeat, but liberation. Others whispered another name entirely: the Ghost of Sparta, the stranger who slew gods and defied the divine, who walked into the throne room and left it in ruin. On the hive world of Necromunda, they told the story as a warning to tyrants. On the forge moons of Mars, they spoke it as a curse. On distant worlds beyond the Imperium's reach, they sang it as a hymn of rebellion. Each tale was different, yet all shared one truth: he had ended the age of gods. Far from Terra, beyond the fringe of the galaxy, a lone figure walked across a dead world. The sky burned with auroras of green and red, remnants of the warp still bleeding through reality. The wind howled softly across the plains, carrying echoes of ancient battles. Kratos walked without destination. His armor was cracked, his chains dull. The fires that once wrapped around him now glowed faintly, like embers refusing to die. He stopped at the edge of a broken lake, its surface reflecting the ruined stars above. The reflection showed a face older than memory, scarred and quiet. For the first time in ages, he felt no rage, only the hollow echo of what once was. He had slain gods, shattered empires, and faced eternity. Yet peace, the one thing he never sought, had found him. Behind him, the air rippled, a shadow forming from nothing. "You have done what none could," said a voice, smooth as oil and sharp as glass. It belonged to a being draped in silver mist, neither man nor monster. Eyes like suns blinked within the void of its face. Kratos did not turn. Another god come to speak. Not a god, it said. A remnant. The whisper of chaos, still alive even when your war is done. You have broken the thrones of both light and shadow. The galaxy will rebuild, but it will never be whole. You have set it free, but freedom breeds new monsters. Kratos' eyes narrowed. Then I will face them too. The entity tilted its head. You cannot fight forever. Then I will rest when war forgets me. The being smiled, or something like it. Perhaps even we, the eternal, envy you. To destroy the divine and yet remain mortal, that is power beyond creation. It faded into the wind. Kratos stood there a while longer, watching the dying stars. Slowly, he reached to his belt and unwrapped the blades of chaos. Their edges were chipped, their glow faint. He looked upon them as one looks upon ghosts. Then, without a word, he cast them into the lake. The water hissed, steam rising where they sank. The ripples spread outward, touching the reflection of every star above. For a moment, it seemed as though the whole galaxy trembled. Kratos turned and walked away, his silhouette swallowed by the crimson horizon. Some say he vanished that day, that the men who killed gods became myth once more. Others claim he walks still, unseen, where war brews and tyrants rise, waiting to end them as he always has. But those who dream deeply in the warp, who drift between worlds and visions, sometimes hear a whisper carried by fire and storm. A voice low as thunder, saying, "No gods. No kings. Only men." And somewhere in the void, where stars are born from silence, the ghost of Sparta walks again.